Psilocybin, also known as shrooms or magic mushrooms. They come from many different families of mushrooms, and during the times of the Mayans and Aztecs, they developed religious rituals around the eating of the mushrooms to try and get closer spiritually. In 1959, Harvard's psilocybin project used self-administration of mushrooms to help free the psyche without needing doctors. Shrooms are most commonly taken by oral administration. Doses come in 15, 25, or 30 milligrams. Psilocybin is absorbed mostly in the small intestine and some in the stomach. Psilocybin goes through first-pass metabolism. I could not find much information on depot binding, but psilocybin does go through first-order kinetics, so the half-life is usually 2 to 4 hours. The key component of psilocybin pharmacodynamics is metabolism, because the hallucinogenic effects comes from metabolized byproduct, psilocin. Psilocybin is metabolized by stomach acid or alkaline phosphatase in the small intestine. Then the byproduct, psilocin, gets further metabolized by monoamine oxidase or aldehyde dehydrogenase into 4-HI acetic acid. There's competition between serotonin and psilocin for MAO enzymes, which leads into the mechanism of action. An important thing to know is that serotonin is at the center of it all. Overall, the continuous use of psilocybin diminishes brain activity and connectivity as it affects many neurotransmitter systems. Psilocin is structurally similar to serotonin and produces excitatory effects. Everything starts with the serotonergic system. 5-HT2A receptors, which are a family of serotonin receptors that are known for producing hallucinogenic effects from psilocybin binding. The highest concentration of 5-HT2A receptors is in the central nervous system. Psilocin is a non-selective 5-HT receptor partial agonist, as its chemical structure is similar to serotonin. Psilocin binds at the 5-HT2A receptor and the channel opens, allowing an influx of sodium. This depolarizes the cell and creates an excitatory response that increases the rate of neurons firing. The increased activity in the central nervous system interacts with glutamate and dopamine receptors. Glutamate is activated in cortical pyramidal neurons. The binding of psilocin to 5-HT2A receptors lead to an interaction with glutamate AMPA and NMDA receptors. The activation of the glutamatergic system leads to altered levels that produce a distortion of a user's self. The stimulation of serotonin 5-HT1A and 5-HT2A receptors can increase dopamine levels. Psilocin acts as an agonist to release dopamine by binding to receptors. Dopamine does impact behavioral effects by increasing the want of the drugs, but not to addictive levels. The biggest behavioral effect is tripping. It is a psychological state of intoxication produced by a psychedelic. Trips are categorized as taking a mental journey out of the normal conscious awareness. Trips are defined as having 4 stages: onset, plateau, peak, and come down. The plateau stage is usually 2 hours long and consists of the sense of time slowing down and visual effects starting to get intense. The peak stage is the suspended state of reality. During this time, users may experience different hallucinations, or they may get the experience of sensations crossing over. Individuals can experience good or bad trips, and many factors can impact the state of a trip. There are other sensations identified with psilocybin. Specifically, these include feelings of euphoria, derealization, depersonalization, and distorted thinking. Some physical effects include dilated pupils, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, paranoia, muscle weakness, and lack of coordination. These are all behavioral effects that come with the recreational use of psilocybin. Psilocybin can also induce psychological distress, anxiety, and short-term psychosis. Now, psilocybin is a Schedule I controlled substance and is considered legal in most states. However, research has been starting to dive deeper into psilocybin therapeutic and medicinal potential. Researchers suggested that shrooms to be moved to a Schedule IV controlled substance. In this specific article, they collected data from a national data set, self-report sets, using the 8-factor analysis from the Controlled Substances Act. Psilocybin carries a low toxicity rate, especially compared to the percentages of death from shrooms compared to cocaine, opioids, and alcohol. It also hasn't been assessed by the FDA for abuse potential, so there's still research being conducted. Similar to abuse potential, tolerance and withdrawal had a lack of research. There's evidence of pharmacodynamic tolerance as 5-HT2A receptors downregulate from chronic use. However, in a study by Baumann et al., They found low evidence of tolerance to psilocybin with continuous microdosing, compared to LSD that found it may initiate desensitization with serotonin, which produces tolerance. For withdrawal symptoms, there isn't much research. Long-term heavy dosing can lead to psychosis, memory issues, and risk of flashbacks due to the persistent changes of brain connectivity. Withdrawal symptoms haven't been studied as much, but research is starting to come out about low doses of psilocybin helping from withdrawals from methamphetamines and SSRIs. Overall, psilocybin is an interesting drug with potential for future research. You will always hear the stories of individuals using shrooms recreationally and sharing their experiences because when you think of psilocybin, you will think of the behavioral effects that are affected by serotonin and glutamate levels. The take-home findings from this project is that psilocybin has an impact on multiple neurotransmitter systems, it can potentially be used medicinally, and that you shouldn't take shrooms, especially in the forest. Your environment can hugely impact the behavioral effects, and many people will share experiences of having bad trips in the forest. Also, they are a controlled substance.